arrest! You don't belong here!
You'll regret this. I'm the judge.
In the heart of downtown Atlanta, where the historic Fulton County Courthouse stood as a beacon of justice amid the bustling streets lined with magnolia trees and glass skyscrapers, a routine morning was about to unravel into a nightmare of prejudice and power. Judge Eleanor Harris, a seasoned federal judge with 25 years on the bench, stepped out of her modest sedan in the early autumn light. At 58, she carried herself with the quiet confidence earned from presiding over countless trials, from corporate fraud to civil rights violations. Dressed in a simple blouse and slacks, her judicial robes waiting in her chambers, she clutched a worn leather satchel filled with docket files, sealed affidavits, and notes from her latest case involving police accountability. Little did she know that the man lurking near the entrance would see only her skin color and make the gravest mistake of his life. Officer Marcus Reynolds, a burly veteran of the Atlanta PD with 15 years under his belt, leaned against a stone pillar, his 6 feet 4 inches frame casting a long shadow. He had built a reputation for keeping order around the courthouse, often through intimidation rather than protocol. As Eleanor approached the wide marble steps, her steps purposeful and unhurried, Reynolds's eyes narrowed. He didn't see the authority in her posture or the official documents peeking from her bag. Instead, his mind jumped to stereotypes he'd harbored for years, fueled by unchecked biases in the precinct locker rooms. "Well, look what we got here," Reynolds snarled, stepping into her path like a wall of blue uniform and ego. "This ain't the food stamp office, lady. You lost or just stirring up trouble?" His voice boomed with false authority, drawing glances from passers-by hurrying to their own court dates. Eleanor paused, her expression steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. She'd encountered ignorance before in depositions, in appeals, but this raw hostility was a stark reminder of the world beyond her gavel. "Officer, I'm here on court business," she replied calmly, reaching for her ID badge clipped inside her satchel. "If you'd like to verify," Reynolds cut her off with a harsh laugh that echoed off the courthouse facade. "Court business? Yeah, right. Folks like you think you can just barge into places you don't belong." He towered over her, his hand inching toward his baton. 2 other officers, Ramirez and Hayes, emerged from nearby, sensing the tension like wolves to a hunt. "She looks suspicious, boss," Ramirez chuckled, pulling out his phone to record. "Probably got fake papers in that fancy bag." The air thickened with unspoken prejudice. Reynolds's face twisted in contempt. "Hand over the bag, or you're under arrest for trespassing." Eleanor tried again, her voice firm but polite. "Officer, if you check my credentials, you'll see that was all it took." In a flash of unchecked rage, Reynolds's hand swung out, connecting with Eleanor's cheek in a resounding slap that sent her staggering. The satchel flew from her grasp, papers scattering like confetti across the steps, motions she'd drafted, rulings she'd signed. Pain exploded in her jaw, but worse was the humiliation as he grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. "Trash like you doesn't belong in a hall of justice," he growled, his breath hot on her face. Handcuffs clicked tight, biting into her wrists. Ramirez and Hayes circled, laughing as they kicked at the documents. "Look at this junk, probably stolen from some lawyer's office," Hayes sneered. The irony burned in Eleanor's mind. Just 30 feet above them, a plaque read, "The Honorable Judge E. Harris presiding." But Reynolds was blind to it, lost in his own warped sense of power. As they dragged her inside, Eleanor cataloged every detail: their badges, their words, the security cameras whirring overhead. She'd spent decades upholding the law. Now, she was its victim. The holding area was a cold, fluorescent-lit room where she sat on a metal bench, her professional attire rumpled, her cheeks swelling purple. Her thoughts raced through precedents: Graham versus Connor on excessive force, Tennessee versus Garner on reasonable suspicion. She knew the system inside out, but experiencing it from this side was a gut-wrenching education in its flaws. Meanwhile, Reynolds strutted through the processing desk, high on adrenaline. "Got another one trying to sneak in," he boasted to Sergeant Mills, a desk veteran who'd seen too many of Reynolds's catches. Suspicious behavior, resisted arrest, assaulted an officer. The lies spilled effortlessly, tailored to fit the narrative he'd perfected over years. paint the victim as the aggressor, especially if they didn't look like him. Mills nodded absently, stamping forms. What's her story? Reynolds leaned in, voice dripping with sarcasm. Claimed she had official business. Had a bag full of what looked like phony court docs. When I asked for ID, she got mouthy, swung at me. Had to take her down. He omitted the slap, the chokehold, the racial slurs muttered under his breath. In his mind, the system always backed the badge. Eleanor's mind stayed sharp amid the discomfort. Her confiscated phone held contacts to the DOJ's Civil Rights Unit, the U.S. Attorney's Office. But for now, she waited, noting every procedural violation. This wasn't just an arrest. It was a federal offense unfolding in real time. Word spread through the courthouse like wildfire. Reynolds gathered with Ramirez and Hayes in a break room, replaying the video they'd selectively recorded starting after the assault, of course. She thought she was hot stuff, Ramirez laughed. Kept saying we'd regret it. These types always play the race card. Hayes nodded, scrolling his phone. Judge'll throw the book at her. Wastes our time with lies. A rookie officer, fresh from the academy, asked, "What happens next?" Reynolds puffed up. "Open and shut. We testify. She gets max time for disrespecting the badge." He had no clue that the she in question held sway over every warrant he'd ever served, every case he'd touched in this jurisdiction. In the prosecutor's office, Reynolds met with ADA Laura Benson, a sharp but overworked attorney who'd relied on his testimony in dozens of cases. "Walk me through it," she said, pen ready. Reynolds spun his tale. Suspicious loitering, inconsistent briefcase for her status, verbal threats, physical resistance. She swung first. "I used minimal force." Benson bought it hook, line, and sinker. Reynolds' conviction rate was stellar, after all. Back in holding, Eleanor analyzed the setup. As a former prosecutor specializing in misconduct cases, she knew perjury when she smelled it. During booking, her calls were recorded. One to Chief Judge Thomas Reed, requesting footage preservation, another to the FBI. Wheels were turning, but Reynolds remained oblivious, focused on his win. The temporary courtroom buzzed with the morning docket. Judge Samuel Grant, subbing for the delayed Eleanor, called order. State versus Jane Doe. The clerk intoned another dehumanizing touch, ignoring her ID attempts. Reynolds took the stand, uniform crisp, demeanor polished. Benson led, described the incident. He wove his web, suspicious demeanor, forged docs, aggression. She claimed to be important lawyer, maybe judge. Classic deflection. Grant nodded, hooked. Ramirez corroborated. She swung at him. He showed restraint. Hayes added, "Those papers? Obvious fake sensitive stuff no civilian has." The lies stacked, each officer perjuring themselves in sync. Eleanor sat chained, bruise throbbing, but her resolve steel. When her turn came, she rose. "Your Honor, I'd like to address inaccuracies." Her voice, cultured and commanding, made heads turn. She cited cases, Papachristou versus Jacksonville on loitering, Miranda rights. Regarding the malfunctioning body cam, federal rules require backups. Grant frowned. "You seem knowledgeable." "Legal background." Eleanor smiled faintly. "Some experience." She gestured to evidence. "My calendar shows I was due here at 9 a.m. Bailiff Owens froze, recognizing her, the judge he'd assisted for years. Producing her badge from her pocket overlooked in the chaos, she revealed, "I'm Judge Eleanor Harris." Gasps rippled. Owens fetched her robes, and in recess, she transformed. "All rise," Owens boomed. "The Honorable Judge Eleanor Harris presiding." Reynolds blanched, world crumbling. From the bench, Eleanor replayed footage, the slap, the slurs, the lies. "You said actions have consequences, officer." "Indeed." "Guilty on assault, civil rights deprivation, perjury, 40 years federal time." Ramirez and Hayes faced charges, the department overhauled. The courthouse renamed Harris Justice Center. Justice prevailed, a beacon for reform. What do you think about the violence and injustice depicted here? Share your opinions in the comments. Do you believe systemic change is possible, or are these issues too entrenched? Take a stand and let us know your views.